Therefore, putting aside all filthiness and all that remains of wickedness, in humility, is what we were just talking about, receive the word implanted, which is able to save your souls. We're going to look at what it means to save your souls in this context. Verse 19. You know this, my beloved brothers and sisters. Is he talking to believers or unbelievers here? He's talking to believers. And you'll see that throughout the epistle. And you remember this next week when we get into chapter 2. This epistle is written to believers. It's written to believers. Okay? People who have placed their faith in Jesus Christ. And are, as a consequence, they're children of God. That makes us brothers and sisters. So it's a family. It's a family. Look what he says to us, family. Let everyone be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Isn't that hard? Isn't it hard? Don't you want to be heard? You always want to be heard. I say you because that's y'all's problem, not mine. Especially, this is terrible, but especially if you love your own opinions. You're quick to speak, and you're slow to hear. And this isn't a suggestion, is it? Let everyone be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Your dad told you this, I'm sure. If he didn't, I'm telling you. Son, that's why you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to learn to close it. We used to get our mouths washed out with soap. Did y'all ever raise your hand if you ever got your mouth washed out with soap? But my dad, we had Ivory soap. That was the generic brand back then, and it was always one size. We didn't get big size or small. It was just the same size. You remember that size, right? And he didn't use an old bar of soap. But he used whatever he grabbed. And he'd grind it in my teeth. Isn't that something? So I tasted it for about 3 or 4 hours. And I'm serious. We even had a water fountain outside. It was a bunch of kids. So we had a water fountain outside. And I've been sitting at that water fountain just blowing bubbles. Blowing bubbles. My mouth got ahead of my skis. Too often. Proverbs 10:19. Listen to this. When there are many words, transgression is unavoidable. But one who restrains his lips is wise. Takes self-control, doesn't it? Takes self-control. Proverbs 16:32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures a city. You could capture an entire city. That's a big feat. And bring that city into subjection under the empire. And he said, the one who rules his spirit, that's the guy that has control. In this context, over what he says. He has control. In this context, over if he gets angry or not. He's got control. He rules himself well. He doesn't say, like I've heard said, I've said it myself, well, that's just me. You don't like it? You can deal with it. That's just me. Really? You know what it is? It's your sinful self. That's the word we get track from. You run track and field. Be quick to hear. Quick. What does that take to be a good listener? What does it take? Takes attention, takes self-control. But doesn't it take love, interest? Even if it's a child and you bend down, you get down on your hands and knees and you're listening to that child. You're looking them in the eyes. It takes intention, but it takes humility because you want to hear what they have to say. You're paying attention. And people are noted. Some people are notorious for being good listeners or bad listeners. Women, this happens a lot. You would complain, honey, why don't you just listen to me? Does that ever happen in any of your marriages? Yeah. The women aren't supposed to raise their hand, Tina. But serious, that's a problem for the men. It's also a problem for women.